Hey, what's up, guys? John here. I'm going to say what's up in the chat. I'm going to begin here. So, I got some new info that is changing my mind on the real estate market. In March of last year, I think it was March, April, I made a prediction saying that everything was going to crash. And it did. It crashed by about 20%. But then what happened was the government essentially just printed and printed and printed our way out of that current reality. And now what I'm seeing is a situation where we could have the same scenario happen all over again, where they just print so much money and the big corporations essentially run out there and buy up the housing stock to keep prices inflated. So we might not see a crash. But here's what I'm looking at, and here's why I believe this. So yesterday, I'm not sure if you guys heard this news, but Jim Cramer, everybody knows who Jim Cramer is. And he made a pretty big announcement. And when you're reading this, Jim Cramer wants it, right? And if you haven't already, the US, he wants this is getting serious. This is getting serious. So the Wall Street veteran says it's a psychotic that people will, and he said to have the military run it, right? So Jim Cramer's saying that, not a big deal, right? But then you're saying for now, right? And then what we're having here is a whole new set of measures that just came out about an hour ago, 30, 40 minutes ago, with a set of new guidelines to where to me, what I'm seeing is a scenario in which we could likely have the economy close back down. And if that does happen, the only way that the only way they'll be able to achieve that is either through, either new eviction moratoriums, new foreclosure prevention mechanisms. There's going to be something set out in place, and we could have a whole new repeat of what we had before. They said, Biden, he said he believes that there's not a cause for panic, and it's unlikely, read through the lines, it's unlikely to result in this. His admin's plan for winter months comprises several steps to encourage adults, right? So then what we're seeing here, though, is in overseas, right? All of this is going to greatly impact the economy. And when we're having a situation like this starting to unfold in this, this world we're in, how can everyone stay home to do that and not be able to make good on their payments and have payments due? I don't think that happens. I think this entire economy right now is in a game of, a really good way to look at it is this economy is like this game here of musical chairs. This is exactly what's happening right now in America, in our current economy, whether we're talking stocks, real estate, the government's in the white shirt, the white hoodie, and everyone, then the investors are in the black because they don't know what the next move's going to be. And that's the thing. Everyone now, either they're waiting out on the sidelines in the real estate market, but they're going to get it killed with inflation because they're also factoring in a whole new set of potential issues that could have an impact on that. So one of which is this fourth stimulus check, right, that they're talking about. And they're talking about they have 3 million signatures for $2,000 a month in monthly payments, right? So what's ultimately going to happen there? If you guys follow what's ever happened with like universal income in Oakland in the 1970s, they did a sample run of a small demographic, but what ended up happening was landlords increased the rent in those areas and essentially just funneled money from the tenants to the landlord. If there is a situation where there's a $2,000 monthly stimulus, what do you think is going to happen to pricing? Pricing is going to get out of control. And that's what they're talking about. That's what they're kind of pushing for, is more free money. So it's going to reduce the standard of living in America, but then again, it's going to prop up the housing market. And this housing market, we're looking at this data here, and to me, what it looks like is, they say thousands could lose their home or sell their home, right? But they say the federal government, big banks, and mortgage services started emergency programs when the pandemic hit early last year, shutting down vast swaths of the economy, bail out a lot of millions of homeowners that missed payments for up to 18 months. We're in the midst of the largest transition out of forbearance we're likely to see, with 750,000 homeowners, so 750K, that are 60 days past due, right? Of over half of the 7.7 million borrowers who piled into the program are current on their mortgages, making payments again. According to the weekly data from Black Knight, a mortgage software data and analytics company, about 23% of borrowers either sold their homes or refied their mortgages to make them more affordable. Roughly 7%, or over 500,000, are in active loss mitigation with their lenders, still trying to work out loan mods. Hundreds of thousands of homeowners remain in a tough spot. They say 3% of approximately 264,000 homeowners are now in delinquent. 38,000 are in active foreclosure. But, what I think is going to happen here is that this scenario that we're stepping into, there's so much money on the sidelines. There's so much money on the sidelines. And investors are looking to pile their money into hard assets that are going to hold value. Look what's happening in Turkey. Look what's happening all over the world with global currencies. They are getting punished. And people are afraid that's going to happen here in America. And that fear is with merit. So people are going to, I think, prop up this market even more. But my concern going forward, before I thought, this market's 100% going to crash. There's no way this is sustainable. And it isn't if we let the market do what the market does. But that's not happening. We're having so much intervention on this market that they're not going to let it crash. The way that I look at it is that when everyone's rich, everyone's compliant. When everyone is poor, everyone is submissive. And that is the game. Right now, they want everyone to be happy. They want everyone to be happy financially. As many people as they can make happy, they're going to do, right? And then at a certain point, they're going to change the market, I believe. That's a prediction that I have. I think that we're going to probably be in this, in this state potentially for quite some time until the timing is right. And they say what I'm seeing right now is people nervous. A lot of them coming off forbearance, some of them still not working and not knowing what to do. I try to instruct them to first contact the servicer, right? They say a possible way out. There's another option, selling. They say prices are up 20%. Well, the dollar died by about 20 to 25% this year, so it's kind of in line. As a result, about 87% of homeowners currently in foreclosure have positive equity, according to the analysis of Realty Track, a foreclosure listing site based on data, right? For those 264,000 now delinquent, but not yet in foreclosure, they likely have a significant equity as well. And equity, if you don't know, equity is the difference between what your home is worth versus how much you owe on the property. If it's a $200,000 home and you owe the bank $100,000, it's $100,000 in gross equity. This is wildly different from what the market looked like during the last housing boom and bust, when about a third of all homeowners were underwater on their loans. This could be a boon to an incredibly lean housing market, which has seen record low inventory for almost a year. Builders have not been able to ramp up production significantly due to labor and supply chain issues. Some estimates are that the market needs about 1 million more homes to satisfy demand. While these homes wouldn't fill that entirely, they'd make a dent. Roughly 73% of borrowers in foreclosure have more than 20% equity, right? So, and that's what I think is going to happen. Someone in the chat asked me, hey, should I buy a house in Big Bear? These homes that are $200K, $300K, the monthly debt, the monthly, the mortgage payment, the debt commitment that you pay on a 30-year fixed rate loan, depending on the state. If you're in New Jersey, you have high taxes. But if you're in a traditional state with about a 1% tax, 1.25% annual tax rate, you're probably going to end up being better off owning that property than renting right now. You look at what happened in Tampa, at 24.8% increase in rent just in 2021, right? The national average is about 21%. So the rental market right now is just insane. Where I am right now, I'm in an Airbnb, and the rent's going from 2,500 to 5,500 bucks, and I'm moving out. So that's what's happening, right? Everything is getting crazy expensive, and this universal basic income, if this does pass, or if future stimulus payments do come about, what they're likely going to do is the landlords are going to, they're going to take advantage of that. They're going to funnel the money straight from the person that's receiving the checks straight to their pocket, right? And the big corporations are going to do it best. They're going to be the ones out there that are going to be aggressively seizing that opportunity. If you even look at companies, not just BlackRock, Blackstone, the big companies, but what they do generally is they go out there and they literally do tests to see how much income is rising in every neighborhood. And they get a general idea of how much wages are rising, and they increase the rent in accordance to how much people can pay, right? It's pretty common sense. But if the average person is making $3,000 a month, a husband and wife each making $3K, $6,000 a month in gross income, right? But if you're getting each another $2K, that's $10,000 a month. That's $120,000 a year in gross income. The landlord's obviously going to take note of that if that ends up going to fruition. And that is going to make things so much harder for people to own real estate, to buy real estate. But there's also other changes that are coming as well. This decarbonization of real estate. There's going to be a lot of expenses associated with the ownership of the property. So make sure if you're going to buy something that you can truly afford it, and that you're buying something that makes sense to invest in later if you have to make certain upgrades. While having equity didn't prevent them from defaulting on their loans, it should provide them the opportunity for more of a soft landing. The ability to sell their home at a profit, satisfy their debt to the lender, and have money left over is a chance for a fresh start. Yes, but also what they're also saying here is the people now that are selling their home, let's say that they lost their job for whatever reason, right? Let's say that they lost their job and they have a $300,000 house that's worth they owe $225 on it after sales cost and everything, and it's a $300K house. Maybe they walk away with $55K, right? $60K after agent fees and everything. If they try to go buy another property, they're not going to be able to if they don't have steady income over the last 2 years. So they're going to have to rent, right? So the rental market is that they're going to see a lot of people get shaked out of their houses over the next year or two, force them to rent because they're not going to have an opportunity to qualify to buy property until they, have 2 years steady income. So we might just have more of a demand in the rental market, kind of like what we did in 2008, 2009, where the rents actually stayed pretty strong and in some markets even increased. Whereas single family homes, they dropped big time. Blackstone founded a company in 2009, the largest single family homeowner in America. And they were buying properties at, 40, 50% of value. They actually had a formula. It was called discount to replacement value. And what they would do is they would say, okay, what's the land worth? They look at the tax roll, see what the land's taxed at. They'd say, okay, well, how much is it going to cost me to build this property? If it's a 2,000 square foot house, and let's just say for easy math, it's $100 a foot to build it. They're like, okay, it's going to cost 200 grand to build, and the land's worth 100. So the property, if we were to replace it, it would cost 300. So if we can buy it for 150, let's just write the check. And so they had people just going to auctions with just boxes of checks. They were just buying everything on this discount to replacement formula, right? And so that I think is going to come back in a big way, even through iBuyer and through a lot of these other platforms. Is they're going to be looking for these values, and anything that seems like a better investment than cash that they can control, they can rent out, they can drive in revenue, cash flow, and they can still have depreciation and all the other benefits to real estate. I think they're going to do it. And they go on to say the number of post-forbearance loans and active foreclosure was held essentially flat over the last 90 days. Auctions in favor of loss mitigation options, we shouldn't be lulled into a false sense of security. However, as a significant pocket of foreclosure risk will continue to persist throughout much of the first half of 2022. While it might still be a better option for homeowners to simply put their homes on the market, especially given the fierce demand and short supply. They may have equity, but then it's a matter of where they're going. So this is the thing, though. The economy where we are right now is it takes one headline to make the stock market jump another, 10%. It just takes one headline or one bit of news, and then that news can be retracted, and the confidence level can change. If what Jim Cramer is saying, Jim Cramer is really pushing something that we've never seen here. I've personally never seen here. They want, like, read that. That's Jim Cramer. So he literally just came out on CNBC and said that. So this is going to change. This will change things if we start to see a very big move there, and we start to see what's happening in all over the world come to America. So we're kind of in an interesting period where we're meeting inflation met by government assistance. They're buying a ton of mortgages right now, freeing up banks. They're doing everything they can do to prop up this market. And then at the same point in time, they could be bringing back the eviction moratoriums, which could then hurt mom and pop landlords. There's a lot of things that are coming. And if we have, another set of closures, there's no other way around it besides a lot of stimulus. And then if we had 25% roughly inflation last year, 25%, if we did that again this year, plus you add in all the other packages, the infrastructure bill, Build Back Better, all the other plans, the inflation rate would be insane. So even if, let's say, the real estate market dropped by 50%, but the dollar drops by 50%, then did the market really crash? It's kind of like a tree falling in the woods and no one's around. Does it make a noise? That's the thing. So I'm curious as to what happens next. Usually I have very, very good foresight. And, just like I did last year, I put out all over Instagram, even on this channel, talking about, hey, crash is coming. And it did, and it only lasted for a month. They just printed their way out of it. So the big question is, how long can they print everything for? And at what point are they going to pull the rug from the real estate market? What do you guys think? I'm going to jump in here, and we'll have a conversation about this. I'm going to scroll up here. Housing content's the best. I'm literally 13. Don't tell my mom using her account. Hi. Should I wait to buy? Big Bear, what do you think? I responded to that one. Eviction moratorium. I keep my longest length stay 27 days. Yeah, that's the other thing is, like, people are hopping into Airbnb mainly. So Airbnb, it's short-term rentals, if you don't know, and people like them because they can do short-term leases, and if they're in and out under 30 days, then they're not considered a long-term tenant, and they don't have certain protections and rights inside of that housing unit. So there's a lot of interest towards Airbnb. But my reservation here is, what happens if things change in terms of travel to where things maybe get a little bit harder to get around? Will that impact Airbnb? That's the main, I think, caveat to the Airbnb, is if one thing changes with travel, then that model changes. So I still like the Airbnb. I would just look at Airbnb and underwrite that deal based on a worst case scenario. What could I lease this for minus 15%? And give yourself a buffer. And if the numbers still work there, then you can Airbnb it. And if Airbnb ends up running into a snag, you can switch over and operate it as a long-term rental. If you have time, let's hear from let's see. Are you still practicing as a realtor? No. Announcement that completely dismantles the numbers. Let's see here. A lot of comments. Saw a house this morning, junk for $250K. Depends on the market, right? $250K. My theory, my philosophy is, you want to buy the worst property in the best neighborhood, and you want to try to extract the value from that community and ride that wave. You don't want to buy something nice in an okay neighborhood and then hope everyone else around you fixes their property up. You want it to be the other way around. If the market dumps and you are in a really desirable neighborhood and the property needs work, what's going to happen is the other properties around you are going to fall much faster than yours, because you are going to have, the benefit of being in that community. The dollar's worthless, not backed by anything. Good faith. Yeah. A lot of people right now are on that same page. A lot of people. I think landlords should be fined if they raise rent, who get these benefits. Yeah, I mean, but look, you look at General Mills, look at the dollar store, look at even healthcare providers. Everyone that is, a big corporation is likely increasing their prices on almost everything. And so landlords are going to do the same thing. BlackRock, Blackstone, corporations, private equity funds, mom and pop investors, everybody, because their costs are rising. If you want to have a plumber come out to your property now, it might cost you $300. 2 years ago, it might have been 150, right? And what will it be in a year or a year and a half from now if we continue printing and printing and printing money? Everything is going to go up. So that $2,000 a month that people may or may not get is going to be factored into everything else. The dollar is going to be worth less because it's not backed by labor. That's actually one of the main things with cryptocurrency that's cool is it's backed by proof of work, whereas the dollar is simply just backed by, Biden. Well, I think landlords should be fined. When you take the bird's eye view, the whole Fed-induced business cycle is predatory. I had money to pay off my house with previous. I wanted to keep it liquid. What do you think of people paying off their homes? Um, it depends on what your goals are. Everyone has a different goal. Everyone's in a different place in life. So I don't want to just give you a blanket answer there. But paying off your house gives you a certain level of freedom. But if you're 25 years old and you have 250 or 300 grand in the bank, I'd probably put that money to work. I'd probably put it to work, and I'd put it to work in a very intelligent way. I think it was planned going back 2016 and 2017. Afternoon. What's up, Jeff? Good afternoon. Let's see here. We simply, let's do. They're buying up all the single family houses so they can rent them out to everyone. Yeah, it's going to be Renter Nation. I think Bloomberg put out an article a couple months ago saying that America should be a nation of renters. So that's really what they said. They said America should become a nation of renters. Look at this. And so they're trying to make this. They're trying to make this the reality. Should America should become a nation of renters. And so they're pushing for that. And it seems as though that's probably going to be a reality. It seems as though that could be a reality for many. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on the real estate market right now. Everything is going to be changing, I think, in the next 30 days. I would not be surprised by any means. I'd actually bet on it that we step into a situation where things start closing back up and we start having eviction moratoriums and things like that coming back if we're paying attention to what's happening globally. And at that point in time, then there is no free market, right? There is no free market. If people aren't allowed to foreclose and people aren't able to be evicted, then at that point we're literally just watching them handle everything. So that I'm betting more on that than a natural course in the economy and a natural course in the real estate market. I'll catch you guys on the next live stream. Hit the notification bell to join and catch you guys later.